Oh, I want to bring up this part. The Laura Dern has a great speech showing off her capabilities, and she does this throughout the film, where she obviously knows what she's talking about as a criminologist, and then Red, Clint Eastwood gets her because he's not stupid, right? He's not just some cowboy. He does know what he's doing. But the other people in the movie don't really get it because that's just their characters, right? Now, I'm going to read this off, and I try to write it verbatim, but it talks about the backstory of Butch. Now, I'm debating if I actually want to say it, because it's really a plot point in the film, but I want to bring it up because you see this parallel, and this is what I was talking about the cycle, right? The cycle of of parenting and from father to son, or just adult male to child male, whatever. In that story that she tells, there's a lot of similarities to the situation in the movie with the relationship between him and Philip. I'm going to stick with that. I had it all written down here. I thought about just saying the whole thing, but I don't want to. But if you do watch this film, take note at that part, because it really shows. And again, it's about foreshadowing. It's all cylindrical. It just keeps going in a circle. Yeah. So this is one thing I did notice, was that. And it does make the audience consider, or at least for me, it made me think of that cyclical cycle, right? That of violence and male role models and things like that. What could have happened to Philip as he got older after this movie? Knowing what if you watching the movie now. And I didn't even pick this up either. I've watched this movie a couple times, and I just realized this in this last watching, of what, given the nature of the speech that Laura has, and the way the story ends up at the end, I ask myself, what would happen to this kid, if the story continued? Would it fully, go back around again? And then, he then becomes a criminal, and then, would he go that route? Or because he had a different mom with more of a religious background, would he still keep that? Now, they talk about Butch's mom, and they talk about his dad, and again, they go all into that. So, knowing that, then you can then look back at the end of the film and think, where would Philip end up after the movie? And I thought that was interesting to consider. I also wonder about where my life would have been. If I didn't see this movie, because again, as I said towards the beginning, it really had an impact with me. I'm not going to go into personal details. I'll just say there's some similarities I saw of certain things, and it's something that just stuck with me. This movie is just something that stuck with me. It is something that I even consider, how my life would have turned out, because I base my own personality. A lot of my perception of the world comes from having multiple perspectives about learning something. I try to look at the world from different point of views and different perspectives, and that's what I really thrive upon. I like to find out, it's not, you can look at something from just different angles, right? You get but because you look at it different angles, you get different perspectives. A great example of this is the dude from Frequency, Dennis Quaid, Randy Quaid's brother. And so the movie Vantage Point, it's the same story from different point of views. And as you watch the movie, you get different you realize, oh, this is the truth, right? And then the one truth then becomes the greater truth, and so on. So, in that light, I personally do that with outlook of life and try to find that different perspective. And I don't think I would have had that as relative, or at least as powerful today, if I didn't watch this movie. Because it does show, it's like, I realize it's, life isn't black and white. It's not, there are gray lines in, like, with law, or, just good and evil, or, people might even disagree, but I do think there is a gradient to that. You can't, it's not a coin toss. Sometimes, it obviously depends on the thing, but my point is, it's not always as simple as what we want it to be. It's not this perfect world. It's a funny scene where Kevin Costner and the kid, they're on the road, and they're like, hey, look, Philip, he's got one of them trailers. And then he's, go like this, Philip. And he tells him to do the thing, right? The honking the horn, like a trucker. He's like, come on, do it. And then, like, the guys driving the RV are in this red pickup truck. Now, mind you, the RV is supposed to be for the state governor, like, the next day, who was supposed to have, like, some political event, right? Some big rally to show off the RV. And then, but basically Red just takes it for the trip and for the manhunt. Well, they go to pass each other, and the driver doesn't realize it's them until they get, like, real up close, right? He's like, oh shit, that was them! Like, he spins it around, and there's, like, this whole chase scene. It's really funny where, and then the cops, like, they crash the RV, and so I'm skipping a lot, but I want to skip a lot because I don't want to give a lot of them away. Let's see, I want to talk about... Oh, meanwhile, it cuts to... after that, then it cuts to the governor, and he's being the typical politician, being the opportunist. He's got the mother there. She's crying her eyes out. He's there standing beside her with a photo op, just taking advantage of the situation. And then that shows in the story, it's, you see another dude, you just see another avenue of, a different life and a different, different goals, right? It's not the same story. It's not, everyone's got their own story. Everyone's trying to make their own spin of what reality is. And then it's up to the viewer or, the person, the audience, to make up their own mind, right? Yeah. So another scene is they go to this restaurant, and that's where they meet Linda Hart, who was in a different movie with Kevin Costner about the same time, Tin Cup. She was playing the ex-girlfriend, the ex-wife, if I remember correctly. Like, he sells the golfing range to. That's another great movie. I watched that not too long ago. Oh, man, I forgot how funny and ridiculous that was. With her, at the restaurant with Laura Hart, she's basically just playing a waitress, and she's kind of lonely. It's late at night, and she's flirting with him. He's been in prison. You blah, blah, blah. He says, hey, Philip, go play outside. And then now mind you, during each interaction that he has with all the different innocent people, he's making up a story about him and the kid, and, like, his mom died or not with him, or, just basically making up lies as he goes along. And then the kid, Philip, he has a nickname, Buzz, 1963. So again, that era. He tells Philip to go outside and kick rocks, right? Literally, he's like, go out there and throw rocks while I get my groove on. So, but it's funny. it's funny in that he basically just goes, I'm gonna say A to M. If you know what I'm talking about, A to M, then yeah, he goes A to M right off the bat. Hungry motherfucker. So he is the kid gets curious, wondering where Butch is at, and then he starts peeking in, and right when he's digging for some acorns, she's Philip looks right in. He's like, oh my. He's like, oh shit. And they just have that adult moment, oh shit moment, clean up, and he's got to take off. And there's this funny part where he walks away, and there's another scene, another moment I didn't realize a couple times I watched it. He fixes his junk as he walks out the door, and it's funny. It just caught me off guard. I thought it was hilarious because the kid cock blocked him so bad, and I just thought that was hilarious. From there, he talks. It gets into a scene after that about love, or not love, but just he's the kid from his point of view. He's like, do you love her? And he says, well, hell, Philip, yeah, I love her. I kissed her butt, didn't I? Of course, a kid, you say butt, laughing your butt off, and I did. When I was a kid, I laughed, but as an adult, I got that totally different, and that's hilarious to me. After they leave the restaurant, then this is where it starts to get towards the end. Now, I have skipped quite a bit, and I wanted to. Towards the end is where it really picks up. It's where you really see the depth of how bad Kevin Costner could get. And you see this turn where, they're in this cornfield just trying to get some sleep. And before they pull into the cornfield. Let me say this. Before it gets dark, him and Philip they have this great scene where he's trying to convince Philip about essentially what the American dream is, right? Of what is it that you want? You're not under your parents. You're gonna get older, and what do you want? And then he tells Philip to look into the glove compartment, look for a pencil and paper. There just happens to be one. And he's like, write a list of all the things that you've always wanted. Cotton candy, roller coasters, things like that. Well, and then he does. So and it shows him the what could be more, than his life that he knows. And I think, it's an interesting, it's another interesting father and son moment, And there's these series of those throughout the film where he's he teaches him kind of about love, or he teaches him about his dreams and standing up for yourself, and there's just these things that you wouldn't expect someone of that character to be, and yet he is. From there, and then they start to get some sleep. This is early at night. Later in the morning, or really early in the morning, there is a local farmer, or a worker of a farmer, is an African American guy, kind of an older guy, a grandpa, not that old, probably mid-50s, and he's just taking care of the field at night because it's hot out. It's cooler at night, and he then invites Butch and Philip to the house. If you want to crash on the pull-out bed, you can do that, and they do. Then it skips to the morning, and they're having breakfast. You see these moments in the film where Kevin Costner, he gets triggered in a way, and I hate saying that word because it's such a common nomenclature today, but you see this reaction in him about when a kid gets hurt. And I think it's because he thinks about his own himself being a kid and going through, more of a rough childhood, and that they describe in the film. When he first kidnaps Philip, he feels sorry. He feels bad for him. He thought it might be safer for him to kidnap. I guess I think that's what it was. And there's another scene where he's with this family, this yokel family, right, who are just on a picnic together, and he's got to steal into the car to get past a roadblock. Well, the family has a mom and a dad and 2 kids, and the dad's kind of he's just a kind of a family dude. You know what I'm saying? He's a good dude. Now, in the relationship between the mom and the dad, the mom is more the dominant figure towards the kids. She's the one who actually punishes the kids, whereas the dad is just kind of there. And it's like it's another archetype of men, right? The good man, the nice guy. And whereas the mom is the one having to take care of the kid, or discipline the kid, I should say. So there's that, and then you see Kevin Costner seeing that, as the outsider, and you can see him take offense to it, right? Where she grabs her daughter, and their daughter's probably 4 or 5, so she's that age range where you can just kind of grab a kid, and she just sits her on the ground. He's like, sit. Say, what did I tell you? And you can obviously see as the audience, you see the projection of okay, this is not how, you should really take that out to the kid. He can see that, and everyone in the audience can see that. Later, there's another scene at this end of the film where they're at the farmhouse, and they're eating breakfast, and then the grandpa asked the kid to go out and grab something. I don't remember exactly what it was. The kid is only 6 years old, doesn't do anything the first time, and then the grandpa walks up, smacks him in the side of the head, right about here, side face, hard, and that gets his attention. You see that. I've seen that before. I've seen that with friends of mine growing older when I was a kid. So, and it's just something that people deal with, right? They shouldn't. It shouldn't be that way, but it's just a sore, sad piece of life, And it's you see this, and what the movie's doing is showing you it's not just from this type of personality, right? It can come from any different walk of life. This how this negative reaction to this over negative reaction, I should say, not just negative reaction, but then over that. You know what I'm saying? Smacking a kid upside the head obviously is not the right way to deal with the situation. It's just of that time, and then you see Kevin Costner get upset about that, right? You see Butch, and he doesn't say anything. Again, you see him, this is the 3rd or 4th time in the movie where he lets it slide, right? He doesn't say anything. He just kind of goes along with it. Earlier in the film, now that I realize it, Terry actually smacks him in the side, Philip in the side of the head, and he doesn't say anything. It's only at the end of the film where the grandpa actually really slaps him twice hard, and then Kevin Costner just snaps. So it's the ending scene is very powerful. In those ending moments in that farmhouse are very powerful because you see how after he gets smacked, the kid runs off and does what he's told, and then the grandpa, he goes to the bathroom and starts playing the radio. Meanwhile, Kevin Costner talks to the grandma, and they start looking into these old records from the 40s and the 30s And then he comes across a song, which I had it written down here. It's by Lenny Niecus, Niehcus, called Big Fran's Baby. And it's got like I thought they were bagpipes, but apparently it's like an accordion mix. But yeah, it's almost like a Scottish type tune of like this old, just really old Western, right? Of that era. And almost like 20s, I would say. I don't remember, I didn't look it up, the song itself, but I just looked up the name. And so they start dancing. Now, I will say this. Here's another cameo, or an actor who wasn't as famous then. The grandma was actually the same woman who played the replacement in The Matrix 2. She played the second Oracle from part 2 and 3. That was her as the grandma. And then so there's a great scene where there's a nice scene where Kevin Costner is dancing with the grandma, and then Philip and the little boy, I can't remember his name, they're dancing together. And then meanwhile, the grandpa is in the bathroom listening to the radio and finds out about Butch. Well, the song gets over, and then Butch goes to look for the grandpa and finds out about what happened. And threatens the family. He's like, if you do anything, I'm going to kill the family. From that point, then the grandpa goes to grab the grandson, and to protect him, But the grandson doesn't know any better, and then he wants, like, one of those kid flips, where you put the kid has their arms between their legs, and then you grab their arms, and then you can flip them, right? If you've ever seen that, I used to do it with my nephew, and he loved it. But it's like a somersault, right? It's that, and you do that, and the kid wants to do it again. Well, the grandpa knows better, and he pulls him away. And then as he pulls him away, the kid acts up, and then the grandpa smacks him twice, and then that just triggers Kevin Costner off the deep end, and then it goes off the rails on that. From here, this is all I'm going to give away towards the end, because it's really spoiling it. I don't want to say much more than that. I will say a lot of the scenes come full circle. I'm thinking it live now, and I was going to talk about, I had this whole paragraph written out about just describing what happens, and I decided not to say it, mostly for time. But I do want to mention it. And there's other scenes too. I didn't even mention, where wishes want to go when he escapes. What's his ultimate goal. To end it, I'll say this: there's a lot of payoff. There's a lot of setup and payoff in the film. It's not a happy ending. It's a balanced movie in that. Even toward, I'll say this, at the end of the film, Clint Eastwood says, oh yeah, he just doesn't know anything anymore. And I thought about that after the fact. I thought about, what is it that, and that goes back to the, like, old philosophy, right? About, like, admitting to yourself that you don't know anything, you're fallible, you're humble, in what you don't know in life. Is I think where he got that. It was where he was talking about at the end of the film. And I think that's really what a lot of the film is about, is this secular balance that just repeats itself. And that's very, I guess it's Buddhist, I think? Like that yin and yang, just goes back, that flow. And I think that has to do a lot of that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about. I thought about... I don't have kids myself. I'll say that. I will admit that. I don't have kids myself right now. But I hope in the future, if I have a son, I want to show him this movie. about the same age as when I saw it, because of that perspective, because in hoping that he would see what I saw, that life isn't just black and white. There's this, there's this dichotomy, there's this balance that we fight against ourselves of, like, doing the right thing versus doing the wrong thing, and where do we put ourselves in the world, how does that all balance out? Is there any, and because if we make we try to do the opposite of what the wrong answer is and still do the wrong answer, is there a right answer? Is there a change that can be made from generation to generation that we learn, or are we just doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over again? On one side or the other, I don't know, but I think that's what this movie really leaves off with. So in that, I agree with Clint Eastwood's character. I don't know, I don't know what to make of it. Which is what it should be. I think it's what it should be. It should be you being left with the question of, to yourself. It should be left up to you. It shouldn't be left. The movie shouldn't tell you what the answer is what I'm saying. It should be up to you to determine what that is. What is this perfect world? Is it something that bad shit doesn't happen? Is it a world that some stuff happens, but you can find the ultimate beauty in both? Honestly, I'm just spitballing at this point. But that's my overall review of this movie. There's a lot. I feel like I'm missing a lot. I'm not saying, but I hope I said a lot. And I know this is a long time. Go see the movie. Watch it. Just enjoy it. Don't even think about what I said. Just watch it for what it is. Because there are rare movies that don't get the credit they deserve, and I think this is one of them. Especially coming from Clint Eastwood, seeing as he's he's had such a huge career as both an actor and a director and everything else. $1 Million Baby, or the old westerns, but this movie just finds a place for me. It really does, and I wanted to really put that out there for people, because I think it is. I think it's a story about what it means to find yourself as being a man in this world. I think that's a lot to do with it. I think maybe just a person, just being a person in this world. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know. That's what I got. I hope you guys like it. I hope you guys subscribe if you want. Review. Let me know if I'm full of shit. Let me know. Hit the buttons, the likes, the subscribes, all the fun stuff. And I'll see you guys later.